Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. So excited that you're here. Today, we're going to be talking about focus and concentration and motivation. Three of my favorite topics. I've been a long time, student of these disciplines. I want to share with you everything that I've learned specifically as it has to do with essential oils. So today, as we get started, we're going to talk a little bit about which essential oils will work best for you if you're trying to focus or concentrate or have motivation. And you're going to learn really a key concept, which is, well, I won't tell you quite yet, but you'll find out in about a minute. I think when we talk about essential oils, we really want to learn an amazing categorization, if you will, of essential oils, how they fall into categories, and why that's so important. So as I mentioned, focus, motivation, and essential oils. So some of the things we talk about when we talk about essential oils is we talk about what kind of properties that we have. So let's first talk about why we need focus and concentration. So whether you're a third grader and you're trying to finish a math problem, or you're a business owner and you're trying to maybe balance your books or pay your taxes, or if you're a dōTERRA leader and you're trying to prepare a presentation, or you're speaking to your team, or getting ready to put together a class, maybe you're an artist and you're creating a new piece, or just maybe a busy parent that's trying to juggle a lot of different things and make sure you show up at the right place at the right time. Focus, concentration, motivation, all super important. And if you can't find enough inspiration or enthusiasm to get the task done, that's going to really hinder your ability to feel successful or make progress in your own life. And that's something we all, I think, strive for in our lives. This poor student is looking really kind of downtrodden. We want to make sure that all of our students, whether they're younger or older, are making progress within their academic careers. I have two students at home. I have two students in my family, rather, and I'm always trying to make sure that there's some sort of a hack for them to make sure it's a little bit easier. For those of you who have a student or are a student, this presentation is for you. So we know that emotions can influence our quality of life, and that they're major factors when it comes to feeling focused and motivated. So emotions can, every day we are kind of faced with experiences, decisions, and outside factors that can shape our moods. Now, sometimes our moods, we can control them, and other times we can't. So the impact of emotions on each and every one of us can be that our behaviors, our way of thinking, are continuously affected in either a negative or a positive way. And we want to make sure that as we're feeling these emotions, we're not allowing them to drag us down. Aromas have the potential to change our mood and help us manage our emotions. And while positive, uplifting emotions can help us to be more focused or concentrated, negative emotions can leave us feeling discouraged, disoriented, maybe disinterested, even confused. And that's not the way we want to go if we have a very important task that we need to complete. When we talk about aromas and mood, there's a couple of things that we want to think about. We know that aromas are almost miraculous, really, in the way they help us to experience the world, whether it's, and we're talking now about natural aromas. So whether you're out in a garden, or you're on a city street, or you're cooking and you're smelling some herbs and spices, aromas have a way to not only elicit memories for us, but to lift our mood and to help us to feel better or worse than the situation would ordinarily demand. We don't often realize that our sense of smell does affect how we transition through our day. And if our aromas are positive ones, we can affect the general course of our day, which affects our weeks, our months, our years, our whole life, really. So make sure that the aromas that you are coming in contact with are positive ones. Now, we can't avoid all negative aromas, but in general, we can affect our interior and sometimes even exterior spaces by what it is that we're smelling. So how do aromas really affect what it is that we're doing on a daily basis? So let's talk a little bit about the process, right? Because there's some steps that happen every time we smell something. So we smell, maybe something emits an aroma or an odor, and the molecules float through the air and they enter into the nostrils through the air, right? Once they reach the nostrils, they're picked up by the olfactory system. And the olfactory system, as we know, is connected to the brain. The olfactory system also kind of signals the brain to control our sense of smell. So what is it that we're smelling? To pick up on different aromas. So it's kind of a in and up, and the whole process happens quite quickly. It's not something, certainly it's an involuntary process and something that we necessarily don't control. When we, the neurons, and we'll send nerve signals to the brain to identify the smell. Sometimes we'll smell something and we'll think, what is that? I can't quite identify it. Maybe it's a new smell. Maybe it's something that's been combined with something else. We can't quite put our finger on it. I've mentioned several times that I love to cook, and I cook very often for dinner, especially. When I wake up in the morning, though, I don't want to smell last night's dinner. There's an association for me of something in the past. And while that meal might have been delicious and I enjoyed it in the moment, smelling it the next morning, in general, gives me kind of a yuck reaction. And that's the kind of thing that we want to avoid. We want to make sure that the reactions that we're having to our smells give us either a yum or an elevated sense of energy and concentration or happiness. Once we get those nerve signals into the brain, we're getting some transmitting of information through the limbic system, which is the part of our brain where our emotions and memories are stored. So once we've smelled something and we've identified what it is, then we begin to feel that flood of emotions, either positive or negative. And then the limbic system creates a response based on maybe memories or emotions associated with that particular emotion. Certainly, if it's a smell that we've smelled in the past, we may get into kind of almost like a rut, right? I smell this thing, I don't like it, it puts me in a bad mood. And that's the links that we're trying to break. Of course, responses will vary from person to person. Some people will have a very lovely, beautiful memory associated with a certain thing. Other ones, and each of us, as we know, has unique memories and associations, but we want to make sure that those memories and associations are positive ones in general, and that the things we are smelling allow us to harness that smell for a desired response. How can essential oils promote feelings of focus? Well, they can do it really in a couple of ways. The chemical components of essential oils really fall into, are you ready for this? Only 2 categories. This was the thing that I was trying to reveal, and this is the big reveal, if you will. Only 2 categories, either calming or uplifting. Yes, that's absolutely true. And if you go through your oils quickly, mentally in your mind, and you can comment in the chat and let me know what you're thinking. Yes, they are really only 2 categories. Both calming and uplifting, though, can be used to keep you alert, concentrated, and focused and motivated. So that's sort of the shocker. So you can either calm down or be uplifted, but they can both work towards concentration and motivation. And I'm going to tell you how. So whether your essential oils are calming, grounding, or balancing, or maybe energizing and refreshing, we can use them both to stay on task, preparing ourselves to focus on the task at hand. So you may be feeling jumpy, unsettled. That's when you want to obviously go for your grounding, your balancing essential oils. And if you need something to kind of wake up your mind and energize you, you want to prepare your body, your mind, your spirit, if you will, to get ready to do that task. That's when we're going to go for our uplifting essential oils. I hope that makes sense to everybody. If it does, give me a Y in the chat if you're live. If you're watching this later on, give me a comment down below. We always love to hear your comments and hear what you're thinking about our presentations. So we want to use essential oils that are going to address the feelings that we're feeling as we approach the task, not something that we just, I don't know, put on any old thing because we think it's going to help us, or something that someone told us was going to help us. We need to identify what it is we personally are feeling, and then use the appropriate essential oil to either magnify that feeling or elicit the feeling that we want to feel. So here's a couple of diffuser blends for feelings of focus. Now, these are going to give you calming, grounding, energizing, and uplifting all in one. So when we look at, let's say, number 2, peppermint, balance, and coriander, we know that peppermint is energizing and uplifting. We know that balance is calming and soothing. We also know that coriander can be uplifting. So we've got the kind of the uplifting with the calming, and that's going to work synergistically together to elicit both responses in our body, which is sometimes we may not know, do I need uplifting? Do I need calming? So here are some blends for you. And if you want to take a quick screenshot of this, you should go ahead. The other thing I want to mention, talk about is essential oils and motivation. So there are 2 different types of motivation. There's intrinsic, that's coming from the inside of us, or extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is we feel on the inside some sort of need to do this thing. That could be anything from getting up and exercising, or following a weight loss routine, or reading a book that no one's telling us to read the book, but we want to do it because we want to learn more. Extrinsic motivation is more that someone else is there's an external factor, if you will, that's allowing us or motivating us to avoid punishment or seek reward. So that can be things like school, or maybe a social situation, or fear of disappointing someone. We want to make sure that whether our motivations are intrinsic or extrinsic, we're able to find the motivation to do what it is that we need to do. We also know that essential oils can uplift us to complete tasks and get to the photo finish, if you will, or get to the finish line, so that the tasks that we want to get done, whether we are motivating ourselves or someone else is pushing our button, we're able to get those tasks done. Because in life, really, there's sort of a balance of both. I don't necessarily want to prepare my taxes, but the federal government in the United States says I have to prepare my taxes. I may not want to study for the exam as a student, but the Board of Education says I have to study for the exam and pass it if I want to move ahead and get my degree. So either one of those would be extrinsic. Intrinsic can be you can be motivated to do just about anything, and that's that sense down deep inside that I'm doing something that's good for me and for my health, perhaps, or for maybe even another person. Here's some diffuser blends for motivation. One of my favorites here is in the upper left with the black pepper, the frankincense, the bergamot, and the Douglas fir. I've often substituted sometimes black pepper for pink pepper, or maybe even some other spice, because you see you have there a spice, a resin, a citrus, and a fir. So use these also as recipes. Try to identify where the essential oils are coming from. And if you don't happen to have that particular essential oil, substitute it with something similar that you may already have in your case. Let's also talk about how to use essential oils for focus and motivation. Number 1 for me would be diffusing, right? We want to reach that deadline. We want to seriously concentrate. We want to accomplish something that's difficult for us. How are we doing that? Number 1 for me would be diffusing in the area of where I'm studying or practicing or working, whether you're playing an instrument perhaps, or learning a new skill. Maybe that's not possible because what you're doing is going to be outdoors. Roll-ons are a wonderful way for you to take your essential oils with you. Also, beadlets can help us. By ingesting essential oils, we can get the same type of, elicit the same response as we would if we were rolling the essential oil onto our skin or smelling at our environment. And why is that? So we're taking a beadlet, we're actually usually crushing the beadlet in our teeth, and we're getting that same sense of smell, but through the olfactory system, through the mouth. So either way, now if you're drinking essential oils and water, not exactly the same, doesn't go through our aroma centers, right? Because we're just swallowing down, it's going directly into our digestive system. But what I am suggesting to you is applying essential oils to the skin, whether with a roller or just direct application, or diffusing, or taking a beadlet will be the kind of the 4 methods I would use to make sure that your olfactory system is being activated. We want to challenge ourselves, if you will, to smell different sorts of aromas. And now that you know that aromas fall into only 2 categories, you're going to look at the world a little bit differently. And maybe actually, I'll do a short on this later on. So here's some uplifting essential oils. These are singles. Everything from bergamot to wild orange. Many of these are your and it says here uplifting and energizing. Many of these are your citrus oils. We know that the citrus oils in general are that kind of bright, clean, fresh smell, blended with either other citrus essential oils, or maybe even some of the flower oils, like some of the fir oils, like a Douglas fir or a mint oil. You're going to get that double whammy for uplifting yourself or your surroundings. When we talk about calming essential oils, we'll talk about things like basil, some of the herbs. We'll also talk about the flower oils. Those are the oils that are going to calm us down, maybe help our brain to really focus on what's right in front of us. So when we're looking at the categories of essential oils, we're looking at oils really in 2 different camps to try to elicit the response that we need. Now, if you're looking at another person, a child is a little bit, maybe a little bit easier because you can usually see by behavior, but with adults, it's sometimes hard to pinpoint what exactly that they need. Asking those questions, do you feel you need motivation or do you feel you need calming? Do you need that kind of jolt in the arm to get you up and running? Or do you need to kind of calm down so that you can focus? Both are important. And when we talk about the brain, we want to make sure that both of those are valuable and that we're using both on a regular basis. Let's talk about a little bit of some application ideas. We've got our basil, perhaps, as I mentioned. One of the herbs are really wonderful to promote a feeling of focus, whether you're studying, reading. I love dōTERRA Motivate. I use the roll-on quite a bit. Usually in the morning, I want to jumpstart my day. It is a blend of citrus and mint. So if you don't happen to have that blend, you can blend your own. Frankincense, to kind of focus your intention throughout the day. That would be one of those calming essential oils. Peppermint for invigoration. Wild orange for uplifting and boosting our energy. And then finally, Intune, which is one, I think many parents, if you're a parent, you've probably used this with your child, whether you've stuck it into a diffuser or rolled it on them or given it to them to stick in their backpack. One of my favorite blends of all times. And I have to say, hands down, it's one of those blends that I go to again and again when I need that focus and sustainability. When we're talking about children, we've got a couple of, especially younger children. This is a small little girly here. I remember when my daughter was in pre-kinder and kinder, she often was sort of dreaming and she wouldn't hold on to her pencil or she'd put it down. And of course, you don't want to be disciplining them in a way that makes them either nervous or panicky, but you want to help them to refocus their energy so they begin to learn how to study. Those early years are so important for helping them to learn what it is to be a student, what it is to study and to concentrate. So using coriander perhaps can be both relaxing and stimulating. You can use peppermint or spearmint on your children. Consider using the kids essential oil line. That's one of the essential oil lines that I go to again and again. And then finally, oils like lemon and lime help them to kind of wake up and get a jump start. If they tend to be sleepy in the morning, can't get motivated. When my kids were in pre-K, we had half-day school. So either you attended in the morning or you attended in the afternoon. And my girl, at least, couldn't get up in time for the early morning session, so she always went for the afternoon. My son, on the other hand, has always been kind of an early bird, and he went to the morning session. But just a really good idea to make sure that we're working with our child's biology, to make sure that they're getting into that routine, but maybe in a way that helps them to ease into it. All of us are either night owls or early birds, right? So if you're a night owl or an early bird, let me know in the chat. Let me know below. I want to hear, are you a night owl or an early bird? Let's talk a little bit about meditation and prayer. So diffusing calming oils like lavender, or using balance, applying 𝐈𝐧𝐭𝐫𝐨 can help us before our time that we're going to sit and motivate and meditate or pray. I very often get up super early in the morning before my family is up to make sure I have time for prayer and concentration and just focusing on what I feel is almost the most important part of the day. It brings me that peace that I need in the morning so that I can step forward. I can be here and kind of on for all of you. And also that I can be grateful for the things that are important in my life. So start my day with prayer and I end it again with prayer. And I try to meditate throughout the day, stopping to make sure that I'm refocusing myself. But essential oils are a huge part of that journey. Using things like historical oils, like spikenard or frankincense, oils that were cited in the Bible over and over again, can help us to achieve some of those more concentrated meditative states. We can use our essential oils for calming us down, for being to clear the mind, to concentrate really on what's necessary and allow ourselves to be open to whatever messages that we're hearing from our creator. I'm getting a little philosophical today, but I think that's good. Sometimes we have to be able to talk about the things that are important, the deeper things in our lives. We want to also promote focus with a couple of other things. So I'm not going to kid you. It is still important for you to exercise, to eat right, and get adequate sleep, right? And if you are troubled by any sort of a physical ailment, you're going also to have to work mightily to resolve some of those physical ailments. Over the last year or so, many of us have been on a journey of achieving better metabolic health through the use of MetaPower, through the use of intermittent fasting, and that's helped to resolve some of the physical issues that we might have been struggling with. But making sure that our body is moving and acting within its limits, right? Because some of us are 20 and some of us are not. We are making sure that we're optimizing our physical abilities as much as we can. So promote focus and motivation, combining them with keeping ourselves physically active, and you'll find that you and every member of your family is able to get done the tasks that they set forward for them, especially now during this final, exam stretch, if you will. And I know many kids around the world are busy with their nose in a book trying to get done and get through exams. So good luck to all my students out there, and I'll be rooting for you. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please pop them down below or add them into the chat. We'd love to answer questions. And if you're on the live, stay on, because we always have a prize at the end. We've got additional resources for you today, which we're going to post down in the chat. We've got an ebook on focus, motivation, and essential oils. And finally, you can always find me on all social media platforms where we post on a daily basis, and we're always open for suggestions. Thank you so much for having been here, and have a wonderful week. For those of you who are on the live, thank you for having been here. We're going to be back again for the next 2 weeks, and then I'm going to take a break for Memorial Day weekend. Super excited. And for those of you who are celebrating, we've got some nice Mother's Day celebrations. That's going to be next Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye now.